Hi, Paul. I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. What a pleasure to be able to speak to you today. How are you?
I'm doing good, Sarah. Where are you at right now?
I'm in London.
You
Slightly different time,
are.
I think.
Beautiful place.
Well, when it's not raining.
Listen, that's true. That's true. I love London, though. I've had such good experiences shooting there.
Oh, great. Well, I'm glad to hear it. For people who haven't seen The Luckiest Man in America yet, what can they expect from this quite unique, quirky film?
Yeah, I think this story is one of great specificity. It's this, schemer con man who's, got this jovial disposition and is kind of like a little kid trying to get away with a prank or a scheme. In this case, it's he learned the sort of algorithm pattern to the Press Your Luck game show and could predict when to press the button to win the prizes or the money. And he did so to great effect, to the degree that CBS flipped out and said, "We don't want to pay this guy all the money he's won. He's cheated. Should we take him to court?" And so it kind of follows that story through the eyes of the crew members and the folks who worked on the show. And it's like a fun movie that explores the human psyche, and it's a bit of a morality, tale, or a morality question posed. And I think what sings the most out of this film is the awesome cast and the visuals. I think for a film that kind of sits tight in its own space, we really found a way to make the visuals pop, both in the art direction, the cinematography. I love the music. So I think it's a really cool film. I'm proud of it.
It's not your first time playing a real person. And I know you've also said in the
Yeah.
past, you're kind of drawn to these sort of underdog, slightly messy characters, where you're not quite knowing where to sort of fit them or how to label them, let's say. So why was
Yeah.
Michael Larson kind of alluring to you in those respects?
Yeah, I think the actors I grew up watching that I love the most, that I said, "Oh, I want to try to do what they do," are guys like Paul Giamatti, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Sam Rockwell, Michael Shannon, Peter Sarsgaard. Those are kind of like my guys, and the characters they play are often, it's a villain, but you don't fully fear them, or hey, they're funny, but they're also tragic. It's like there's never one thing going on, and I think that duality and that messiness is what you were talking about. I really respond to that. In this case, Michael Larson is a very tragic character. There's something about him that feels kind of fun and mischievous, but then you find out more about his life and what happened after the show, and it's actually just really sad. There was clearly some sort of ego driven mental illness going on where he was always chasing money and the thrill of obtaining it in a duplicitous manner.
I wonder if in that sense, the audience is kind of kept on tenterhooks. So, are we supposed to be absolutely rooting for him? Are we supposed to be judging him a little bit for the fact that he is kind of manipulating the game? And is there some comment in there about kind of maybe the American dream, a satire of TV and entertainment itself? That line he has, I just want to have breakfast with my family. Well, of course, it's not the same doing it
Oh,
through a TV screen. So, is there some kind of message in there?
I'll just give my interpretation because I'm sure there's multiple messaging and ways to interpret, especially knowing this is a film as an art form. But I kind of think Michael Larson's full of crap when he says that thing about wanting to see his daughter. It's like there's earnestness in that he loves his daughter, but if he really loved his daughter, he would have found contentment working a straight 9 to 5 job and provided for her and been there for her, knowing you don't have to give the kids the world, you have to give yourself. And it's so much easier for people to say, like, "Oh, I would die for this person." That's great, you would die for them, but would you live for them? And that's kind of the real sacrifice that a guy like Michael wasn't willing to make for for his family. And yeah, hopefully I'm not being too overly judgmental of the character, but that's, at least in this setting, in this story, without knowing the real guy, that's how I interpret it. And I think a great theme for the film, it's one thing to game the system, it's another to game people. Because you can kind of root for gaming the system, but when you start to deceive people, it becomes less rootable, less triumphant.
And maybe you can just say a few words about being on that set. Like you said, I mean, the colors pop. They do this great thing with the retro set where you kind of at one point it's magical, at another point it's kind of sinister.
Yeah.
Of course, this stacked cast with Walton Goggins and even Johnny Knoxville, Maisie
I,
Williams. So what an
I
experience.
have to say, as much as I want to shout out the cast, I have to shout out the crew We shot this in Bogotá, Colombia, and it was like top 2 best crews I've ever worked with in 15 years of acting. And I just was so impressed and moved by the commitment and the cheerfulness and the attitude of the crew members. You could tell they really appreciated that we went down there to make the film, and we made it at a fraction of the cost we would have made it here in LA, in Los Angeles. So yeah, big shout out to the crew who made the film for me. And every day I was on my Spanish language app trying to find funny things to say to them in Spanish, and it became like a thing where like they expected it. They're like, "What is he going to say today in Spanish?" And sometimes it was heartfelt, and sometimes it was, stupid. And I just really bonded with that crew, and the cast speaks for itself. It's such a beautiful palette of brilliant actors who really sacrificed by coming to play and just be a part of this stage-like ensemble. It was cool.
Can you quickly say what you're doing next, or is there a future real person that you haven't yet played that you'd like to?
Yeah, I've done it a lot. I did, I, Tanya, Richard Jewell, Blackbird. I would love to play Teddy Roosevelt. There's a project that I'm attached to for that I can't really talk about. I don't know. At the end of the day, it's all about the writing, and can I somehow provide for my family telling the story. So we'll see what comes up the pike. But I am attached to play Chris Farley, the famous comedian and actor, and I intend to do that whenever Warner Brothers gives us the green light.
Amazing. Well, can't wait to see that as well. But of course, for people who haven't seen The Luckiest Man in America, to see that too. Well, thank you.
Please do. Yeah, thank you.
Huge congrats on the film. Thanks so much for your time. Bye. Bye.
Thanks, Sarah.